Hey, this is Basek. I wanted to make another video showing off some monk tips and responding to some of the comments on the guide video. First though, I wanted to thank you guys for watching and asking questions. I plan to make a lot more videos as I progress further into Inferno. Of course, sharing everything with you guys in these little videos I plan to release. So I wanted to address this comment here. First, of course, I take no offense whatsoever. The reason why I made the original build video and the solo Belial kill was to discuss the build and to debate it with people like you who don't agree with everything you see. You can tell me suggestions, I can debate them back, and thus we both spread our knowledge of the monk class. I actually have a thread going on diablofan.com. I'll leave a little link in the description. You can go there, and there's a couple people asking me questions and me responding, and then back and forth, which is amazing, which is what I wanted out of the video. As for your group of mobs that you suggested, the Plague, Desecrate, Molten, Frozen, and Waller type of mobs, that's a hard combo. That you've taken the largest counter to the monk class in general, and you've put them into one mob and you've thrown them at us. Of course you're going to run across mobs that you can't just make a build for and go, oh yeah, I'm going to bash my face against this and take it down. But you can counter it. There is ways. Like I tried to look for that exact mob, the Plague, Desecrate, Molten, and go, okay, I'll find this mob and I'll counter it and I'll show you how to do it with this build that I've created. But I couldn't find a mob like that. I couldn't find that specific mob. So I found a couple similar ones. So I had the Molten, and I'll show you how to counter that. And I have this one really interesting video with spiders, and I'll put that up here now, and I'll go over some of the tips on how I handle Fire Chain, Illusion, and Mortar type of spider mob. Alright, so you see me run in, and that's a terrible idea. That's straight up. You can see me back up in a few seconds here after I realize this is a terrible idea, and I start heading back to a choke point. And that's precisely where you need to be against Fire Chain. You can't let them get around you, you can't let them surround you, especially if they have Illusionist, and then they surround you and you're trapped in the middle. So I get them in this little choke point. The mortars can't hit me anymore because I'm in the melee range, and my backlash evasion is just clearing out the illusion, allowing the Fire Chain mobs to get closer to me, and allows me to hit them without being in risk of the Fire Chain. I started to take a little bit of fire damage there from it. I started backing up, getting my distance, waiting for my cooldowns to come off, like Serenity, popped a potion, and I started to go back to the choke point where I could control them again. See, this isn't so much the build as it is controlling the environment, controlling what you're going up against. Like, a build isn't going to automatically kill everything for you, but being smart about your positioning, being smart about how to handle certain aspects of the mob are going to save your life. It's going to be what allows you to get through Inferno. Alright, so another example of how to handle certain aspects of mobs, and I wanted to show Molten, I wanted to show Frozen, so I spent a really long time looking for this type of mob. So this one here, the snake mobs, and this is actually a very long video. I had to kite for a long time, so I might speed it up, and I won't be as in sync with it as I was with the spider video, but yeah. It's very important to kite them, and if you look at my map, I've cleared this little selection, and I only follow that route. It's very important that you never run into the Fog of War and find yourself a big group of another pack of elites. That would be a really bad situation to get yourself into. So the very first key to controlling Molten mobs and how you handle them is you never chase them, you never run. As you see, I'll hit them and they'll start running away because that's what they're designed to do. So you follow them, you run in this path of Molten, and it just decimates you. That's a terrible idea. You have plenty of time before you hit the Enrage, so you can just kite them around in a circle. The Molten won't do anything to you, and as soon as they try to surround you, and they will try to surround you, just back up. You're not sitting there trying to focus down one mob. You need to start chunking them down little by little, and hopefully you do get the kill before the Enrage. Now, it's very important that you save your Serenity for just in case you get really bad RNG, you're stuck in a wall, you're stuck by a frozen orb, and no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to escape the AoE radius of the frozen, and that's gonna kill you. If you get frozen beside Molten and Waller, especially ones that actually hit hard, you're probably just gonna die. But this is also why this build is so perfect for me, and why I wanted to show it to you guys is it focuses mainly on CC, and your damage comes from only one of your cooldowns, which is the 7-sided strike and your spirit generator. That's all that your damage is coming from, but it's more than enough to take down most elites. It's very weapon dependent, and I'll get into that a little bit further down in the video. But being able to control situations like being stuck by a whole bunch of walls, being stuck in a frozen orb, and having these cooldowns that will allow you to CC them long enough for the wall to break down, for you to have Serenity back up, to tank a little bit of Molten, to make them feared so they run around so they can't group around you. That's what the build is focused on, why my build is my favorite build, and why I've been seeing the most success with it, other than a very straight, heavy DPS focused type of build. And it's why I wanted to show it with you guys. So here's another comment about this build in Hell or lower difficulties. I definitely didn't have a very defensive build while leveling up and getting into Inferno. I started, I believe, using a shield in Act 4 of Hell difficulty, but I also duoed my way up all the way to Inferno with my buddy who was playing a Demon Hunter. So we had this really cool strat where I just suck everything in and he'd just AoE it down. I actually released an Act 1 video of a little demo while I was fixing my computer to show off kind of what we were doing in a duo. So you definitely don't need to make a really defensive build if you're soloing your way up. I'm really positive that you could get through it all with heavy DPS. In fact, I use heavy DPS in Act 1 farming and killing the Butcher. So it's when you get into the later difficulties, I find the defensive type of build, the CC build, really shines. You definitely don't need it beforehand. The last thing I wanted to say was a tip. The build I posted is very good. I really like it, as I've said in the past here. But it's not something to follow religiously. Just I change my aura depending on the situation. If I'm dealing with very heavy resistance, I'll throw in the healing mantra with the resistance, and it gives me 100 resistance basically with the 20% increase, and it gives me a nice little health boost. And if I'm fighting a whole bunch of little mobs like the ones that you're currently watching here, I'll have the evasion on with the backlash. It's very important that you don't try to go for like a 5 stack of Valor while you're trying to progress through Inferno. It's nice to have, and it's going to be really amazing for farming, but if your goal is just progressing through Inferno, don't worry about it. Just tailor your build, tailor your abilities for handling that mob. So if you're having a really hard time against this really, powerful elite pack, switch your blinding flash to the 60% miss chance instead of the 1 second longer days. The 1 second longer days isn't going to help on elite packs. It's not going to really help you too much, but the 60% miss definitely will. And then against, like I said, really heavy magic, switch to healing mantra and put on the resistances. Maybe even find some resistance gear, drop some decks, so because you don't really need the dodge. It's really changing it as you go along. It's farming that you want to keep one build, and that's the build I posted, because I farm Act 2. That's why most of my videos you'll see is in Act 2 at the moment. I'm progressing through Act 3, and I'm almost to Asmodan now. And once I kill him, I'll probably farm Act 3, and I'll tweak the build for the best for that act. So, it'll have a nice balance of resistances, it'll have a really nice balance of handling those elite mobs, but it's tailoring it to your situation, and never become stubborn. The best way to defeat Inferno is don't get upset, don't get frustrated, don't quit after you die, because you die a lot. I've died countless times now trying to get to further into the act. It's just keep at it. Eventually you'll break them down. Eventually you'll learn every little tip, and of course I'll release more tips, I'll release more comments, and more videos on how I do things. If you guys liked me talking instead of typing, tell me in the comments, and tell me in the other videos, or tell me, so I'll keep doing it, because I guess there's less spelling mistakes when I talk, unless you don't like my voice, and then I'll keep typing for you. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed some monk tips, and happy hunting.